The mentors. Welcome back to the mentors. Welcome back to the mentors. Welcome back. Just a little Sunday afternoon tune. Welcome back to The Mentors. This is Vadim. No, I'm Sergey, actually.
This is Vadim.
And I'm Sergey.
And you're listening to our weekly segment called The 5-Minute Pick-Me-Up, where we motivate you for the week to come.
And the song you heard in the beginning was a little bit slow, a little bit sensual. I don't know. It's just a rainy day today.
When I get that feeling, I want...
Okay. It's a little bit of a rainy day here in New York City. It's a Sunday, so we eased into the day just as we're easing into this episode with you today. But the topic of conversation for today is something that's been top of mind for us, just because over the last couple of weeks, we've been interacting with a lot of young people who are trying to get our attention, and it's becoming more and more clear who stands out. Now, the title of this episode is How to Impress Important People. Vadim and I are not trying to...
Yeah, it sounds like you're calling us important. We're not important.
We're fine. I guess we're important in the context of the college students that deal with us. We have experience compared to them. They try to get to the level that we're at. So we're starting to get really attuned to what makes someone stand out to us.
How this could be relevant for you is this. I mean, oftentimes we're called the mentors, literally. So clearly we prioritize those types of relationships, having people in your life that can help guide you along on your path, whatever your path may be. And retaining those relationships, investing in those relationships is really important, but often it's confusing. How do you do that? How do you make sure you're not annoying? How do you make sure that you impress the people that are further along than you, whether they're your mentors, advisors, investors, or just somebody that is further along in a career that you just want to stay in touch with?
Yeah, let's not think of important people as someone that's, above you in some way, like better than you. No, they might just have the kind of experience or the thing that you want to attain, and you want to learn from them.
And actually, oftentimes, these very people get invigorated and inspired by the young people that they interact with, because young people also have ideas that are different than them. Also, young people tend to think a little bit differently because they haven't been through the same things as them. They don't have the context, and oftentimes are kind of blind to the potential risks, which actually creates opportunity as well. So they would like to interact with people that are less experienced and younger because it kind of reinvigorates that desire to try new things in them.
And recently, Vadim invited me to speak to a class of his. He teaches at the Tandem School of Engineering at NYU. It's a freshman management class, but a lot of people there are interested in entrepreneurship. And I came in and I talked about entrepreneurship to the class, and a couple of students actually came up to you afterwards and wanted to build a relationship with you because that entrepreneurship is something they're interested in. And something interesting happened with this one woman who wanted to get Vadim's attention, but did a little bit more than that.
Well, she's my student, right? So she has my attention, but I offer office hours for people for two reasons. One, obviously, if they need help with information in the class, but also I like working with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is part of the topic of conversation in our class. And if somebody is interested in starting a business or launching it off the ground or even thinking through their idea and what the next step might be, I let them use office hours for that as well, right? Because for me, it's an opportunity for somebody to get educated in whatever way possible. And I did have a student that came over and we talked about her idea. And specifically, we talked about how she could find a partner and a co-founder. And it was a very sort of a simple discussion about getting out there, meeting people, building relationships over time, and then ultimately discussing what you're passionate about, what they're passionate about, and hopefully landing on something you could work on together, right? Pretty simple framework. But that framework alone empowered her because before she was a little bit timid about talking about her idea, didn't necessarily want to share it, didn't know if it was even good enough. And I think in that conversation, she became empowered to share her idea with other people because at the end of the day, if you don't talk to anybody about it, how do you know if you're on the right track? And she followed up with me with an email this week and she said, "Thank you for your advice. It really helped." And I followed up and I said, "Oh, what did you do specifically, right? So even by following up, she actually piqued my interest because I was curious, what part of my advice did you find helpful? And anybody that might be your mentor, they want to make sure that they are helpful. That's part of what motivates them. And in this case, of course, I was motivated by that as well. And the helpful advice was that she actually ended up going to a networking event on campus, meeting other students, and she noticed that other students weren't as vocal about their ideas. And she decided, well, that's an opportunity for her to be more vocal. And so she started talking about it more proactively with other students and actually found another woman that is interested in partnering with her right now. So by following up with me and following through on actually what we discussed and putting it into action, she impressed me a lot, and I'm that much more likely to help her again if she asks for help in the future, even after the class ends and she continues working on the business.
And I will add one other thing, that it's not just the follow through. The impressive thing about this whole story is the speed of the follow through. When did she have this conversation with you?
The week before we had office hours.
So in just 1 week, she applied and executed on Vadim's advice and came back with a result. That is incredible. And if you think about it, for Vadim and I, for example, we interact with a lot of students, both undergraduate, graduate, and a lot of entrepreneurs on a daily basis. And so it's easy to forget about somebody if they haven't followed up with you, let's say in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But if somebody comes back and has that speed of follow through, it's so important. And I have another quick story about that. You might have heard of Christine Schindler of PathSpot, because PathSpot was on our podcast earlier this year. They built this device that people can scan at work to see if their hands are clean, mostly for restaurants. And I remember back when I first met them, we've talked about the story where they came to me with just this idea. I gave them some advice on how to test it by going door to door to restaurants. And 2 weeks later, they came back having talked to 80 restaurants. So with that one interaction, I was already really impressed. But then I accepted him into the accelerator program I was running for Venture for America. And in that program, time and time again, week over week, they proved that same level of execution and speed. Now, I know that they worked 100-hour weeks, but every time they would have an idea, for example, they needed to figure out supply chain. By next week, it would be solved. Or they needed to get some initial investor conversation. By next week, they would figure out how to solve it themselves. And to me, observing somebody like that makes me really want to continue helping them, because I'm just impressed by the speed at which they execute. I give this talk a couple times a semester at NYU about what venture capital investors want to see if they're going to be interested in your business. And one of the things that we always talk about is that investors invest in lines, not dots, meaning that just because someone sees you once and they're impressed by you doesn't mean they're going to want to invest in you. They want to see a line going up of your progress. Every time they meet with you, they see positive indications of you executing on the thing you said you're going to do. And to them, that makes them confident that you're going to continue to do that. So that speed of execution and follow-up is so, so important to impress these kind of people.
So make sure that you're showing your action, that you're getting results quickly, right? And that's part of the follow-up that you're doing. You're following up relatively quickly and keeping them updated. But also, one other thing to add, try to add value to these people in your life. So if you can, for example, one simple way to do that is if you can connect them to somebody that might be interesting for them to meet, someone else that's important, that's a great way to help. If you always reach out asking for help for yourself, asking for them to do something, and then you're not actually following through with what you're supposed to, people are going to get fatigued really quickly, and quite frankly, they'll just start ignoring your emails. So don't be that person that's always asking for help. Of course, if they're a mentor or advisor, they expect you to ask for help, but also do the opposite, help them, and more importantly, show them that you can take their advice, put it into action, and get results.
And by helping them, whether again it's sharing your network or just sharing some information or something you learned over time, not only does it give you an excuse to have a touch point with that important person, but it puts you on a level playing field with them, where now if you're able to offer them value, now no longer are they necessarily above you, they are the same level, let's say, of ambition as you, they're just a little bit further along, and that makes them want to help you even more.
So, action item this week. If you have someone in your life that maybe you haven't checked in with for a month and you want to impress them, act on that one thing. Find a reason to follow up with them by following through on what you promised. And that alone can reignite the relationship and who knows what'll happen from there.
That's it for the 5-minute pick-me-up for this week, and we're excited for our episode on Wednesday with these two gentlemen that are marketing gurus, growth gurus, that also have a successful podcast. They have a successful small business that they turned into a scalable business, and we can't wait to bring you these two guys from Evergreen Profits that we're going to hear from on Wednesday. We jive with them really well. We hope you enjoy that conversation.
All right, happy Monday, and enjoy the rest of your week.